Praise the Lord, church. I wonder if we could all stand. And let's just give the Lord a hand clap of praise this morning. It's good being in God's house. Our Sunday school classes, you're dismissed. It's Sunday adult class in here, remain in here. We got a good group of young people in this church. Amen. For those who may not know, Pastor's grandmother is, he's had to go down to be with her, so hold that family up in your prayers. This morning, you may be seated. I had a message I was going to speak this morning, but I just woke up just feeling like I just wanted to share the Gospel Bowl testimony with you. For those of you who may have heard some of it and others may have not, I just want to share the testimony of Gospel Bowl, which is coming up this coming Saturday. Hopefully some of you, you guys all will make it. But I just started jotting down what God has done, and it just amazed me that all the things that God has done throughout the years. And I just wanted to share this testimony. God can call you to do things you don't really understand. And maybe you don't even think will work. Or can't see the benefit of all the hard work it will take. But the key is simply just to have faith in God. Just trust God and then watch Him work. Now, for me, that's a lot easier said than done because I'm not as spiritual as some of you are, I guess. I tend to question God sometimes, and that's how it started out with Gospel Bowl. 2016, I was out in my yard. I have 10 acres to mow, and I was cutting grass, and that's the time I spend praying and listening to music, godly music. And I was out there, and I just felt God speak to me and say that you needed to have a music festival in your yard. And I just thought that was kind of crazy. Talked to my wife about it, and she said, yeah, let's do it. And then we're both thinking, how in the world are we going to get anybody to come to our backyard to listen to Christian music, let alone Christian bands from around the community to come out in our backyard, out in the middle of nowhere, out in the country, and come to Gospel Bowl. And so that's where it all started. But then God started, after that Facebook post, Maggie posted on Facebook that we're thinking about having this music festival. And that was in 2016. We shared that. And immediately God started confirming that thought to me and Maggie. Bill Hanna, who was the previous owner of our property, he heard about this Gospel Bowl on Facebook, and he through his daughter began to communicate to us, and really with tears in his eyes, about how his mother, Faye Hanna, died back in 1986, and she had this same vision. She was a Christian woman, and she was kind of stuck on that property because she was taking care of a handicapped child that was already, he wasn't even really a child anymore. He was up in his 40s, but he was so severely handicapped that she couldn't leave the property. So she would walk that property every day, walk those hills on my property, and she would pray that God would somehow use this property and use her on this property. And before she died, Bill Hanna. Now he was in his 60s when he was telling me this. Before he died, she died. One of her last wish was to have a musical festival on that property, and it never happened. So God heard her prayers, I believe. And then years later, I don't know how many years later, 86 to 2016. Years later, her prayers were answered, and what was amazing is that when Maggie made that post, the first band that called us or responded on Facebook to us was a band called Into His Marvelous Light. Local band in Valparaiso. Dean Stolpe was the guy who called me, and he owned a big real estate company right downtown Valparaiso. And so I went and visited him, and I began to tell him the testimony of Faye Hanna, how years ago she had this vision, and now I feel like we want to do this concert. And I'm just sitting in his office telling him this testimony, and he stops me in the middle of it, and he says, Faye Hanna? He goes, I know Faye Hanna. He goes, when I was just a child, she lived next to me in downtown Valparaiso. She goes, she's the reason I call myself a Christian today. She goes, she would get all of our kids in the neighborhood together and have her to her house, and she would give us Bible studies, and he goes, I claim to be a Christian because of this woman. So what a connection right there. You're like, oh man, God's doing something. God's doing something. So I couldn't wait to tell this story to Bill Hanna. Ask him, do you remember Dean Stolpe, when you were a child? He lived by you or whatever. So I go home and I check my mail. And wouldn't you know, right there on the top of my mail is a letter to Bill Hanna, because he used to live there. And you know how the mail company is. They still send the mail to the wrong address. So I'm getting his mail. So I grab his mail, and I had to go pick my kids up in school. And so I'm thinking, I said, Lord, I literally said to myself, Lord, there's got to be a reason that this letter is on the top of here. And so I pull up to the school, and wouldn't you know it, Bill Hanna just happened to be that day picking up his grandkids, which he never picked up, and he's right in the very front of the line. So I get out of my car, and I, grab his letter, and I go over there, and I start asking him about Dean Stolpe, and he just has tears running down his face in that card. Like, yeah, I remember Dean. This is unbelievable that connection and what God's doing. He's just amazed by what God is doing. So I wish I could tell you that with all that happening and God confirming all that I had the Gospel Bowl in 2016. But I didn't, because I just got busy. Got busy with life, got busy. I was remodeling the house, putting an addition on, and this and that. And I wish I could tell you I did it in 2017, but I didn't. Still too busy. But finally in 2018, I just felt like I got to do this. We got to have this Gospel Bowl. Whether it works or not, we're going to do it. We're going to push it. Me and my wife said we're going to do it. And first person I went to contact was Dean Stolpe to see if his band was still willing to play. So I'm looking him up on the internet, and I'm trying to find I lost his number. I was trying to find his number, and I found his obituary instead of his number. He had passed away in those years, so no telling what God had in store in that situation that I failed to take advantage of in those 2 years. But anyways, we decided to go on and have Gospel Bowl. And we prayed, and we set the date, September 22nd, 2018. And Bill Hanna got word when the date was, and he called me, and he said, do you know the birthday of when my mother's birthday was? And I'm like, no, I don't know you. I never met her, you know. I never met your mother. And he's like, her birthday was September 22nd. You set the gospel bowl on her birthday. And that was God again confirming to me that I've got this. I've got this. And we told God, if this is your will, we're going to do this with $0 budget. And God just immediately started confirming that with us. I just felt in my heart, $0 budget. And when you're starting to throw a big outdoor concert, it adds up. But God really started going to work. People just started donating things. And first of all, we had sound. We had to have a sound team. So we're calling sound companies thousands of dollars to have someone come out and do the sound for that one day. And so we had one company, Seismic Sound, come over, and I just sat down with him and his wife and began to share the testimony of Gospel Bowl and my vision. And at the end of that, they gave me a quote up front, but then at the end of that day, that testimony, they both came up to me and said, we just want to do this for free. And they came that day. They were there the whole day. They've been there every year except once since. And so there. Then another testimony is I went to go order porta potties. You know, it's $175 for every one of them at minimum. And I was like, God, we got a $0 budget. And a man called me and he said, I just want to donate all the porta potties I heard about this Gospel Bowl. I just want to donate all the porta potties. There was a lady in the church that her husband worked for some chip distributor, and his wife came up to me and said, my husband was speaking and he wants to donate 500 bags of chips, which was another miracle that God did. And we didn't know what we were doing, and we didn't know we were supposed to have licenses, or we were supposed to have, the food vendors had to have licenses, and so the Life Church was doing the food, and we asked a company, Berkey Farms, they have a food truck, but they didn't have it available that day, and he said, I'll provide the meat for you. They had pork burgers. He goes, I'll provide the meat for you, but you have to pay for the cost of the meat. I'll just do it at cost. And I'm like, all right, I'll eat that bullet, And he came out that day, and not only did he provide the meat, he brought his children and himself, and they cooked on an open grill the whole day for Gospel Bowl, and then that very first year. And then at the end of it, he said, this was such a great day, I'm going to donate all the meat. And he donated all the meat for Gospel Bowl that year. Then the members of the church back then, they donated cans and cans of pops and bottles. Our whole garage was just full with pop and bottles of water. It was just wonderful. And then I realized I don't have a stage for this Gospel Bowl. I don't have any stage. I'm going to have to build something. It's going to cost money. It's going to cost this or whatever. And my brother calls me one day and he goes, hey, there's this church, Hobart Baptist Church, right over Hobart Baptist Church. He goes, there's this church that I'm friends with. He goes, somebody donated a stage to them and they want to get it out of their garage. Are you willing to take it and store it at your place? And I said, sure am, And they donated that stage for that first Gospel Bowl. And then another miracle that happened the Saturday before Gospel Bowl, would have been yesterday. The Saturday before Gospel Bowl, I wake up that Saturday night before church Sunday morning, and I'm just in a panic because I just realized, yeah, I got a stage, but it's going to have to go all the way down that hill, and I have to run powered out there. And the wire, I know the heavy gauge wire and stuff is going to at least cost $500 or $600 just for the wire. And how am I going to get this done at no cost? And this is one of the greatest miracles. I wake up Sunday morning with a text message from an electrician. When I was building homes, he was my electrician. I hadn't talked to him for years. He says, hey, I heard you're having some type of festival. Who's doing your electric? And I said, well, why don't you meet me Monday morning? We'll talk about it. And so he came over Monday morning, and I shared the testimony with him about what God was doing and how God had already done all this stuff. And then and I said, and he chose you to do your electric. He chose you to do the electric. He says, I'll be over tomorrow morning. And he put in all new, ran electric down to the stage, hundreds of feet, and connected it all up, put a whole panel in, and circuit breakers and all, and he did the electric. So God provided. That was all that happened that first year. And people from all over the community came. We had over 500, I think 500 and some people show up in my backyard that first year for Gospel Bowl. And I got to share that testimony with so many people that first year. It was such a wonderful year. I mean, at one point I had a whole group of a biker gang all around me, and I'm just sharing this testimony and watching tears in their eyes as I'm sharing this testimony of what God was doing for this Gospel Bowl. And all the musicians just did a great job that year. IBC Chosen was there that first year. They're going to be here again this year, this Saturday. I'm excited about that. We had a great time there. And one of the great miracles of that first year was I was given a Bible study to this Burmese couple, and you know him, Brother No. And I was given a Bible study, and like a week before Gospel Bowl, we were driving my golf cart through the bowl, and all of a sudden he says, stop. And I stop, and he jumps out, and he goes, I want to pray right here. I want to just pray right here because I feel like God's going to heal somebody right here. So we just began to pray, and I was praying. He was praying in Burmese. I don't know if he was speaking in tongues or he was just speaking his own language. I think he was just speaking his own language, but who knows what he was doing. But he was going to town, I know that. And he was just praying away. And that gospel, at the end of the gospel, I called everybody up to the front, and we had a new convert at that time at Life Church, and I visually remember watching her walk down the hill, right down the middle of the hill, and then stopping. It caught my eye, but it didn't dawn on me at the time but it caught my eye that she came down that hill when I called people to the front, but she didn't come all the way up to the front. And that Sunday after Gospel Bowl, we had just such a powerful service at Life Church. I think everybody was so tired and worn out and just so full of God's grace and mercy that it was just a blowout service. It really was. And this new convert comes up to me and she says, is it all right if I testify? Very quiet lady, very, shy, quiet lady. And she goes, is it all right if I testify? And so I went and asked Pastor Church. I said, hey, Pastor Church, she wants to testify. Is that all right if she testifies? And so she gets up there and she says, I just want to testify that at Gospel Bowl, as I was walking down that hill yesterday, she goes, when I got down there and everybody was praying, she goes, I've had this chronic knee pain in my leg all my life. And she goes, it just instantly disappeared. So God healed her right there at Gospel Bowl. So all that was just wonderful. The devil, he didn't want it. He tried to stop it. That first year was a nightmare. The police was called on us every day for that week before Gospel Bowl. I mean, I got to know them by name, and they would come out, hey, your neighbor, she's got this complaint, she's got that complaint. Yeah, she's wondering if you got enough porta potties, or if you got a medical staff, or what kind of police force you're going to have there. And every time it was something different, that she had called them on. And then she called the planning commission, and we were supposed to have a license for the Gospel Bowl. She found that out, I guess, because it was a public event, and even though it was on private property, and so we had to have this license. And so the planning guy, or commissioner, inspector, whoever he was, he comes out there and he's like, I have to make sure this event doesn't happen and shut this down because you never pulled a permit. I said, well, this is going to happen tomorrow. This is scheduled for tomorrow. Everybody's already got the plans. This has got to happen tomorrow. And he goes, well, let me just tell you that I have to tell you, you can't have this. But I'm going to be out of town all weekend. And I won't be around to know if you did or you didn't, And I said, thank you, I got you, And then also, most people don't know this, but the day of the Gospel, that lady was calling the cops constantly. And all that first day, I mean, just calling constantly. And I'll tell you how God provides. One of the bands that sung that first year, they're actually singing again this year, is Absolution, a guy by the name of Jerry Crokin. He was a Lake County police officer. And I didn't know that until that day. But I was talking to him, and he goes, let me give him a call. So he was on the phone with the Porter County Police Department pretty much the whole day. Every time this lady would call or whatever, he was just in between taking care of making sure they didn't come out, not to worry about it. Everything was fine. He's there. And then for the next couple of years, he actually parked his police car right out in front and stuff, and right by the lady's house, and to let her know that the police was there. And so God took care of that. And what, the next year we had to go before the planning board because now we got to get licensed. We got to get this approved. So we show up there, and we got 3 neighbors there that are adamantly protesting it. But to get it approved, we had to hire a lawyer. We literally had to get a lawyer, and it was supposed to cost like over $5,000 is what he was telling us. It's going to be by the time they take care of all this paperwork and stuff. And so we're like, oh, I guess we'll do it, see what happens. So we went, met with the lawyer, and got everything. He was going to take care of everything. We're going to have this big hearing, and these 3 neighbors show up and they gave their complaints and whatever. But that lawyer ended up dropping all charges. Didn't charge us a dime for his work, and he hasn't charged us a dime since. Every year he goes in and does the paperwork and sends us a letter, and he does it every year, and he has yet to charge us a dime. So once again, God provided. And many of you know that the neighbor, she was so upset about that after that second year, that second Gospel Bowl, she literally took baby dolls and cut off their arms and legs and then dipped them in red blood or red paint to make them look like they were blood, and then hung them all along our property line. So everybody that came in the Gospel Bowl had to drive past all these bloody dolls. Yeah, that was her way, I guess, of protesting since she didn't win the hearing. And so that was interesting, along with many other things. But I just want to say that all three of the people that have protested gospel back then, all three of them have this year had contact with us about how they were sorry about what they did in the past. The one neighbor that did the most, she literally came, and when we were picking up the gospel signs at the end of last year, and with tears in her eyes began to say, "I'm sorry for what I've done," and was crying, and the one neighbor who was he ended up being a client of Maggie's when she switched to Valparaiso. So he's like, "You don't recognize me." He goes, "I'm your neighbor," you know. So they developed the relationship because he was one of Maggie's clients that she inherited, and then another one randomly called Maggie at work because she needed a big favor done, and they realized who each other were in the middle of that conversation, and she goes, "Oh, you're that Maggie," you know, and then that took care of that. Amen. So God has really done a great work, and to be honest, I still don't know what his ultimate plan is, but I know he's still confirming that this is his will. We may never know the ultimate plan, and it may not even involve Gospel Bowl, but something that was birthed out because of the effort that was put into Gospel Bowl. You know, and God has been providing over these years. You know, golf carts back in 2009 and ever since have been donated by Weir Golf Carts every year at no cost. They bring out golf carts. We wanted to, you know, we asked, one day we decided, you know, we're going to, you know, these people aren't going to just keep donating porta potties and all this cost and stuff, so we should get some corporate sponsors. We just had that thought one day. It literally was in an afternoon. We had the thought, and we were going to an open house the very same day, and at the open house, we were talking about how we think we need some sponsors, corporate sponsors maybe for Gospel Bowl. And the two people we were talking to both had businesses, and they both donated right there on the spot. And they donated ever since for every year. And then we got two other companies. That was Group 7 and Cardinal Point Technologies. They have donated every year. And then there's Sandcorp that has donated for the past 3 or 4 years. And then LGS Plumbing has donated. And then L&J Towing, Brother Barker, he has donated in the past. And we're so grateful for that. And since then, I shared that testimony with a couple years ago with a concrete company when they were pouring my sidewalk, and I was sharing that testimony with them, and he said, "Man, I want to get involved in this." He goes, "You mind if I pour you a new stage?" And I said, "Sure." And he came out there and he poured a 16 by 40 concrete stage right in my backyard at no cost. The garbage cans by Republic have been donated every year. They come and they bring out a bunch of garbage cans and they pick up all the trash. Donated every year. Volunteers work by so many of you. I can't tell you how thankful we are for all you that have volunteered over the years. It means so much to us. Brother Shambo, man, he, for a couple years there, he just was a lifesaver to me. He would come over and spend hours with me just working on the stage, and half the stuff we did didn't turn out right, but we're trying to get a tent to stay up over the stage, and it blew away, and it broke, and it did this, but we kept working at it, I appreciate that so much. And of course, the musicians that have sung at Gospel Bowl, it means so much, our church singing at Gospel Bowl every year, and looking forward to this year, our young people singing. Of course, Matt Scott, he has volunteered photography at Gospel Bowl over the years, and I appreciate that. And Gretchen doing the face painting for the kids. And I know I'm probably leaving somebody out, but everybody that has volunteered over the years, I just so thankful for that. So thankful that it brought my family so much closer together. Our kids just were so involved in gospel. I remember at the beginning, real quickly, I remember at the beginning of gospel, something was going on, and we were doubting it and not believing it was going to happen, or having. And Carson, just a little 14, I think he was 14 at the time, 13 or 14, he looks up, he goes, "What do you mean, if?" He goes, "When God does it." He goes, "You've seen what God has done." And I'm like, you're right, you're right, when God does it. So it's brought it closer to my sister, and my brother-in-law volunteer every year, and my brother and his wife volunteer. I'm just so thankful for everybody that has put the effort in. This year, real quickly, we cannot donate cars. This is an awesome testimony just this year. Just happened this week. Weir Golf Cart cannot donate this year. So we're like, oh gosh, where are we going to get golf carts? What are we going to do? How are we going to get some golf carts? And I call the guy and I say, well, we got all this, money in the budget. It should be able to, it should work. And God is so good. I got it, and I got a quote. I think it was $800 or something for a couple of golf carts or whatever it was. And I was like, well, let's do it. Let's do it. And Maggie calls another golf company, and a little guy out of I don't know where he's from, but anyways, she calls him, and he's answered, and he says, yeah, he goes, "You're a Christian?" He goes, "I really, really need God." He said, my family really needs God. He goes, "Can we come to this? Can we come to this event?" And she's like, "Sure, you can come to this event. It'd be great." He goes, and she actually just, he goes, "I think I'll just bring the golf carts and come. And then she actually just talked to him yesterday, and he said, "Yeah, we're coming. I'm going to be there all day, and we'll take the golf carts when we're done." He goes, "But we'll be there all day." He goes, "I really need God." So I know God's going to do something in his life. Yesterday, we spent all day at the Popcorn Fest handing out flyers and talking to people, and that was all donated by Fifth Third Bank. That they gave up their spot, and said, you could use our spot there, right in the down middle of Gospel Bowl there. Middle of the Popcorn Festival, and so we got to hand out flyers all day. That was a great day yesterday. We're excited about IBC being back this year, and we're hoping and praying. I need your prayers to pray this week. We're hoping for a great turnout this year. I think God's going to do great things. I just feel it. Normally we have on Facebook about 700-800 people maybe say they're interested, and this year we got over 1,300 saying that they're interested. So I'm hoping that it's going to be a great turnout. And this is going to be a crazy week, no pressure, but if you want to help at all in this final week, just let myself or Maggie know, because there's plenty of stuff that can be done, or we could find something to do. Getting the property ready. I'm going to be working on it all week. If anybody's willing to pass out some flyers this week, I got a pile of them that we just didn't get to. And but mostly, I just want you to be praying or fasting. If you could do anything, just pray for Gospel Bowl this year, that God does mighty things. And of course, if you can, come out to Gospel Bowl and attend, because that's what it's all about, them seeing us and seeing the power of God moving and working in that place. We would love to see you there. God bless you. The gathering grounds is open. Get ready. We're going to have a great service today. Brother Dwayne, you preaching? Brother Martin. All right, Brother Martin. God bless you. We're going to have a great time in evangelistic service today. God bless you.